C.S. Lewis once wrote that pain is God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world. So what is he saying in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic? For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. This is Breakpoint. A recent poll conducted by the University of Chicago and the AP concluded the coronavirus has prompted almost 2/3 of American believers of all faiths to feel God is telling humanity to change how it lives. For Christians who know from Scripture that God reveals himself as the ultimate and consistent communicator, the question isn't if he's speaking in these events of the last few months. He is. But what is he saying? Over the past 2 months, I've concluded that none of the most important issues we face today as a culture were created by this virus. Rather, the virus exposed and accelerated the issues that already mattered the most. For example, the utopian aspirations of Western culture, like that embarrassing video of celebrities singing John Lennon's Imagine, have all been tested, found wanting, and should be abandoned. Both our self-centered delusions of living for today and our technocratic fantasies of controlling nature, they've both proved inadequate for the challenges of the coronavirus. We've also seen that ours is a culture lost on the dignity of human life. With the threat of hospitals being overrun, how do we even approach questions such as rationing treatment and care? When hospitals weren't overrun in much of the country, then our one-size-fits-all visitation policies became dehumanizing barriers to healing, which both harm patients and family members unnecessarily. Part of the church's task in bearing witness to the sanctity of each and every life is to ensure that people are never sacrificed on altars of efficiency. And there's the confusing relationship between science and our American culture, one that was complicated long before COVID-19. For years now, the phrase, "the science is settled," has been used as a sort of secular equivalent for "thus saith the Lord." And yet, the ever-changing findings and warnings of the virus experts just revealed, again, that a lot of science isn't as settled as so many would have us believe. Even dismissing the cranks and conspiracy theorists, the overwhelming amount of contradictory information continues to fuel growing distrust in our national experts. More troubling is what we continue to learn about the impact of social distancing and lockdowns on the already devastating loneliness epidemic. The overall health impact of loneliness, which has been compared to chain smoking, not to mention the catalytic role it plays in suicide and addictions, seems to only have gotten worse in recent weeks. Last week, one Bay Area doctor claimed to have seen more deaths by suicide during the lockdown than from COVID-19, and as many suicides in the last 4 weeks as he typically sees in an entire year. And then there's the crisis of both work and meaning. A 2015 poll of British workers found that 37% believe their jobs made no meaningful contribution to the world. Now we've added to that the label non-essential to millions of jobs, a horrible adjective that fails to recognize the inherent good of work as an essential part of our human dignity. And non-essential is an even worse adjective for religion. But the pandemic has revealed just how many Americans, including how many Christians, think of church this way. While liquor stores and marijuana shops and tattoo parlors were essential, churches were not, including clergy members and chaplains kept from hospitals. So much about this time has revealed just how secular, and to borrow a term from philosopher Charles Taylor, disenchanted our American culture and our American way of thinking has become. What remains to be seen is just how many Christians will conclude that video church is their adequate weekly fix from here on out. Now, to be sure, eventually the pandemic and its accompanying hysteria will pass. The questions it's raised, however, won't. At root, all of the issues that I've mentioned revolve around the fundamental worldview questions. Where did everything come from? Is there a God? Why are we here? What makes us human? Who decides what's right and wrong? Where's history headed? And today, over at Breakpoint.org, we're offering an online symposium with over 20 Christian thinkers and ministry leaders and authors, from Jim Daly to Kristen Hawkins, Andrew Walker, Karen Swallow Pryor, Trevin Wax, Kathy Herod, Jeff Myers, and more, all sharing their thoughts on what God might be shouting to a deaf world and to his deaf church during this coronavirus crisis. You can find their varied and very thought-provoking responses at Breakpoint.org. Again, it's Breakpoint.org. For Breakpoint, I'm John Stonestreet.